Whore.
Razin cursed Lyra. He knew that with Lyra's beautiful face, she could easily get other powerful men. Lyra slapped Razin's face hard. Not once, but twice. She wasn't hurt by Razin calling her a whore. Those 2 slaps were for everything that happened in the past. When she found out about Razin and Caitlyn's relationship behind her back, she didn't slap or curse Razin, nor did she insult him. Now, she delivered those 2 slaps as a response to Razin's betrayal. It was too easy, but she also had to thank Razin because if he hadn't made that mistake, she wouldn't have met Axel, her husband.
Lyra, how dare you slap me?
And do more than just slapping?
Lyra grabbed a glass from the table and poured it on Razin.
There's nothing more to talk about with trash like you. Take this and listen carefully. If you doubt it, you can check whether the recording was manipulated or not. Yes, maybe later you'll be compelled to verify if the videos and photos you received are authentic or not.
Lyra threw a recording pen at Razin and then elegantly turned around to leave. Lyra was very confident, unlike before she met Axel. She used to be pressured by her family, and her mother was still in a vegetative state, sometimes appearing like a cowardly introvert. Now, she could hold her head high again. She didn't need to be afraid of anyone because she had Axel's by her side. Inside the room, Razin slammed everything on the table. He was truly angry that Lyra dared to insult him like this.
Lyra, I will make you regret this.
Razin growled. He then intended to leave the room but returned to pick up the recording pen that Lyra had thrown at him. Razin walked out with a frightening expression on his face. He still wiped his hand on his wetsuit from the water Lyra had poured on him. Meanwhile, the guard sent by Axel to follow Lyra while she was outside immediately contacted his master.
Sir, Lady Lyra met Mr. Razin at Bintang restaurant today. The meeting lasted less than 10 minutes. Lady Lyra left first without any injuries, while Mr. Razin seems to have been slapped by Lady Lyra on both sides of his face, and she also poured water on Mr. Razin's face.
My wife is still too soft. Continue your test.
Understood, sir.
The guard quickly ended his call and sighed softly. With his master guiding Lyra, the young lady would soon become a ruthless woman. A while later, Razin arrived at his company. He entered his office still in a very bad mood. He loosened his tie, threw his suit and shirt into the trash rudely, and then put on a spare suit that he always kept in his office. Razin sat in his large chair. He was still thinking about what Lyra had done to him earlier. He had never been treated like that in his life. He was born as the heir of the top family in the city, so everyone was used to flatter him. After taking a few deep breaths, Razin felt slightly better. He took a recording pen from his trouser pocket and then lit it.
Lyra, I succeeded in taking Razin from you. Look, now you've lost everything you had.
Razin couldn't possibly not recognize this voice. It was his fiancée, Caitlyn.
You seem very happy after taking everything from me. Caitlyn, aren't you afraid that Razin will find out about your wickedness?
And the other woman's voice belonged to Lyra.
Of course I'm happy. A barmaid's daughter like you doesn't deserve to have anything good. Wickedness. Razin will not find out anything, even if you tell Razin that I manipulated the videos and photos of you with other men. He won't believe you. In Razin's eyes, you are just a cheap woman who sleeps with many men.
Caitlyn, you're truly wicked. You ruined my reputation. You manipulated photos and videos that made others think I'm a naughty woman. Aren't you afraid I'll sue you for forgery and slander?
Do you want to sue me? Aren't you afraid your mother will die? Grandma will surely stop your mother's treatment if you dare to speak up. Lyra, you loser. Now you're just a child without a father and a useless mother. You're no longer Razin's fiancé either. No one in this world will support you anymore. You're destined to be a loser.
The recording ended. Razin's face became stiff. For a moment, he couldn't think. Was it all true? No. Lyra might have edited this recording. She surely wanted to ruin her relationship with Caitlyn. He shouldn't be fooled by her evil plan. However, after a few seconds, Razin still pondered about the authenticity of the recording. In the end, he ordered his assistant to come in and check the authenticity of the recording as well as Lyra's videos and photos. Initially, Razin was very confident that he hadn't done anything wrong. But in the end, he became uncertain and couldn't focus on his work.
I won't do it in the future.
Lyra said softly. She really liked the way Axel expressed his thoughts. This way, misunderstandings could be minimized.
Then what did you discuss with him? Did you talk about the past?
Razin talked about what I did to Caitlyn yesterday. He said I should apologize and restore Chaster family's reputation.
Who does he think he is to order my wife to apologize?
Axel said unhappily.
I won't apologize or clear Chaster family's name.
You did the right thing. Don't apologize. One day they will kneel before you.
Axel caressed Lyra's beautiful face.
So what did you do to the scoundrel who ordered you to apologize?
I slapped him twice and poured water on his face.
How does it hurt?
He worried about his wife.
No, it doesn't hurt.
Lyra replied softly.
If that man dares to order you again, don't just slap him. Kick him where it hurts. That will be more effective.
Axel taught Lyra to be more fierce.
I'll remember that.
But my wife is truly obedient.
Axel praised his wife and then rewarded her with a gentle kiss on the lips. Axel's hand moved into Lyra's thin camisole. A few moments later, the room was filled with the scent of love and the sounds of Lyra and Axel's moans intertwining with each other. Maya met with Caitlyn. The woman had received a demand letter from Lyra.
Caitlyn, you have to help me. Lyra is suing me.
Why should I help you? You did it yourself. Don't drag me into this mess.
Caitlyn, how can you say that? I did it because of you.
If you talk nonsense, I will make your little brother and your parents suffer. Have you forgotten that my fiancé is Razin Brooks?
Maya's face turned pale. How could Caitlyn be so wicked? This woman had used her to ruin Lyra's reputation at the company, but now she refused to help her when she faced Lyra's lawsuit.
I will give you enough money as compensation if you end up in jail. Don't drag me, or I will be harsh on you and your family.
Maya's body became weak. Her future would be ruined if she went to jail, but she had no way to save herself. Even the person she had hoped would help her, Caitlyn, was unwilling. Not wanting to speak anymore with Maya, Caitlyn turned around and left. She wouldn't deal with a woman who wasn't in the same social class as her. All this time, she had only used Maya. The woman was eager to hang out with her and her friends, so she flattered and did whatever she said. Caitlyn drove with an angry face. She didn't know where Lyra got the courage to sue Maya. Now she was really curious about who supported Lyra. If that woman had no supporters, then how could she have moved her mother? Lyra would never let her mother be in danger, so she must have transferred her to another hospital. She had ordered people to find out where Lyra's mother had been transferred, but there was still no news so far. Caitlyn returned to her residence. The woman began reporting to her mother and grandmother, who had always been her supporters.
Grandma, Mom, Lyra is getting bolder. Now she's suing Maya, the woman I used to ruin Lyra's reputation at her company.
This little bitch is looking for death. Does she think she's so great now? Mallory said angrily. Quickly contact her and order her to come back to this residence.
All right, Mother.
Eugene quickly grabbed her phone from the table and called Lyra directly. After several calls, Lyra still didn't answer the phone.
That little bitch isn't answering my calls, Mother.
Mallory was growing increasingly annoyed. She had been embarrassed multiple times by Lyra. Some of her friends in her social circle were now distancing themselves from her and gossiping about her. This was all because of Lyra's actions, spreading recordings at the company where she worked. Some of the company's executives were among the families of Mallory's social circle, so they must have been talking about it.
Send her a message. If she doesn't come to this residence, I'll burn all the photos of her parents.
Mallory still knew how to press Lyria's buttons. Her disliked granddaughter cherished the legacy of her father, so she wouldn't be willing to see the photos burned.
All right, Mother.
Eugene immediately sent the message, and it worked.
Ah, so you finally know how to contact us.
Eugene said sarcastically.
What does Mrs. Eugene want to talk about? Just get to the point, no need for small talk.
Ungrateful brat! How dare you speak to me like that?
Eugene fumed. She would always get angry when talking to Lyra, even though Lyra had done nothing wrong to her.
Give the phone to her.
Mallory wanted to curse Lyra immediately.
Come to the house right now, or all the photos of your parents will turn to ashes.
Mallory wasn't satisfied just cursing Lyra over the phone. She wanted to confront her face to face so she could slap Lyra's face hard.
I'm at work, Mrs. Mallory. If you really want to talk to me, wait until I finish working.
You don't get to decide here. Come or not. That's your only choice.
Mrs. Mallory really enjoys threatening others. Yesterday, she used my mother's hospitalization, and today she's using my parents' photos. All right, I'll come right away.
Before Mallory could say anything else, Lyra had already hung up the call.
Ungrateful granddaughter.
Meanwhile, at her office, Lyra immediately called Axel.
My husband, can you lend some of your guards to accompany me to the Chester residence?
Does my wife want to live with residence?
No. I just want to take my parents' photos, but Mrs. Mallory, along with her daughter-in-law and granddaughter, might give me a hard time.
All right, I'll send them over right away. You just head to the Chester family residence?
Okay.
After that, Lyra asked Jennifer for permission to leave for a moment. And once she got it, she quickly left her company and got into her car. 30 minutes later, Lyra arrived at the Chester family residence's entrance. She saw 2 parked sedans there, and then someone came out of there and approached Lyra's car. Lyra rolled down her car window as the man from the sedan greeted her respectfully by bowing his head.
Madam, I am one of the guards sent by Mr. Axel.
Oh, I see. How many of them are coming with you?
8, madam.
Lyra couldn't say a word. Axel sent too many people, but that was fine. This residence also had its own guards, so if they tried to stop them, Axel's guards could handle it. Lyra felt happy. It was great to have a husband she could rely on.
All right, come with me then.
Okay, madam.
The gatekeeper opened the gate for Lyra, and then 3 cars entered the large estate's courtyard. Lyra was followed by 8 men dressed in all black and well-proportioned bodies as they entered the main building. The servant immediately informed that Lyra had arrived with a lot of guards. Before Mallory could curse Lyra, she saw Lyra come in with her chin held high. She really hated Lyra's temperament, which was just like her mother, Celia. No manners at all.
Lyra, what do you need all these men for? Do you want to attack us women?
Mallory glared at Lyra sharply, as did Eugene and Caitlyn.
Mrs. Mallory, you're overthinking. I wouldn't hurt any of you. All follow me.
Lyra passed by Mallory and the others.
All right, madam.
All the guards replied in unison and followed Lyra.
Where do you think you're going, Lyra?
Mallory shouted.
To retrieve my parents' belongings.
Lyra replied nonchalantly. She wouldn't let Mallory or anyone else threaten her again.
How dare you? How dare you act this way in my residence?
Lyra ignored Mallory's words and just went to the storage room where her parents' belongings were kept. After everything was taken by the guards, Lyra came out and met Mallory again.
Mrs. Mallory, now you have nothing to use to threaten me. After this, never contact me again, and I might not even come to your funeral.
Lyra then left. She no longer had patience for her grandmother. As long as she lived, her grandmother was an evil woman who never treated her well.
Lyra, get back here.
Mallory shouted loudly. Her neck immediately hurt, as did her heart. She couldn't believe that Lyra dared to bring guards to her residence.
Grandma, where did Lyra get those guards? They addressed her as Madam. Could it be that she has found a powerful man?
Caitlyn felt very displeased.
How would I know?
Mallory replied irritably. It was the first time she raised her voice to Caitlyn. Caitlyn clenched her fists. She really hated Lyra. That woman should have fallen into the mud. But now she seemed like a noble woman again. On what basis could a servant's daughter like her surpass her? Caitlyn was truly unhappy.
Sir, this audio recording is genuine and unaltered, while the photos and videos were manipulated.
Adam. Razin's assistant informed Razin about the results of the examination of the recordings from yesterday. Adam's words hit Razin like a bomb, leaving him stunned for a moment with a cluttered mind. Until this moment, you were still being deceived by Caitlyn. Lyria's words echoed in Razin's ears. So, for over 2 years, he had been deceived by Caitlyn. She slandered Lyra to ruin their relationship. Razin never expected that Caitlyn, whom he considered pure and gentle, could conceive such malicious thoughts. He felt terrified, realizing how he had been fooled for years. Caitlyn was indeed an excellent actress. Razin's heart was in immense pain. He had slowly fallen in love with Caitlyn due to the attention and affection she showed him. But now, behind it all, Caitlyn had been deceiving him from the start. Now, how should Razin act? He detested the fact that he was deceived by Caitlyn, but their relationship had reached the point where their families had discussed marriage. No, he couldn't marry a woman with such wicked intentions as Caitlyn. The fact that he had been fooled for so long was enough to break his ties with her. He had deep feelings for Caitlyn, but his dignity as a man had been wounded, making his emotions meaningless. Razin now began to think that if the recording was genuine, then the current rumors about Caitlyn and her family were also true. He shuddered. The entire Chester family was truly horrifying. Razin knew that Lyria's grandmother was using Lyria's marriage for her benefit, but he thought Lyria had accepted it with open arms because she wanted a lavish lifestyle. He never imagined that Mallory would threaten Lyria by using the safety of Celia, Lyria's mother.
Check the other recordings that were spread in Lyria's company 2 days ago.
All right, sir.
Razin wanted to hear what was in those recordings to further open his eyes. Until now, he thought that Mallory, Eugene, and Caitlyn were good-hearted people who were willing to accommodate Lyra, whom he called impudent. After Adam left, Razin was now alone in his office. His current feelings couldn't be described in words. He had misjudged Lyra for years, and that was also why he eventually got involved with Caitlyn. Razin didn't know how to talk to Lyra after knowing the truth. He had insulted, belittled, betrayed, slapped, and left Lyra. Not only that, he was never there when Lyra was at her lowest. He had made a tremendous mistake towards Lyra, who had never betrayed him in the past. Razin's chest ached with regret, guilt, and other suffocating emotions. If only he had sought the truth in the past and not immediately believed the photos and videos he saw, he wouldn't have faced such a bitter reality now. He indeed deserved to be slapped by Lyra after everything he did to her. Razin immediately contacted Lyra. He needed to speak directly with her, to apologize properly. He knew that his mistake would be hard to forgive, but he still wanted to apologize.
Why are you contacting me again?
Lyra, let's meet.
I don't want to meet you. If you don't want to say it on the phone, I'll end this call.
Lyra, I'm sorry. I now know the truth.
Do you think an apology is enough? Razin, I will never forgive you.
Lyra, why didn't you hand over the recording to me back then?
Would that change the fact that you were cheating on me with Caitlyn? Razin, I won't fight for trash like you.
Razin couldn't get angry when he was berated by Lyra. In fact, he deserved all of it.
In the future, never contact me again, and even if we meet, don't greet me or come near me. You and I are strangers.
Lyra then hung up on Razin. She also added Razin to her blacklist so he wouldn't be able to contact her again. Razin wasn't finished talking. He tried to contact Lyra again, but couldn't. Now, the man was sitting down, feeling defeated. He was truly foolish in the past. Lyra now genuinely hated him. As for Caitlyn, he would never forgive her.
Father, I want to cancel the engagement with Caitlyn.
Razin said to his father, Alexi Brooks. Alexi furrowed his brows.
Razin, do you think an engagement is just a game? You and Caitlyn are about to get married soon, and people from our circle are already aware of this.
Father, I cannot marry Caitlyn.
What's wrong? Why don't you want to marry Caitlyn?
Alexi asked impatiently. He wasn't too fond of Caitlyn, especially after the Cheister family asked for significant assistance, even though their families had not officially merged. However, to maintain the reputation of the Brooks family, Alexi still put on a friendly face. After all, Razin and Caitlyn had been engaged for quite some time. Moreover, he had seen how much Razin loved Caitlyn, so he was willing to help the Cheister family. If Razin's relationship with Caitlyn wasn't deep enough, Alexi would be more than happy to break off the engagement, but they were already talking about marriage. They would also have to provide an explanation if they wanted to cancel the wedding.
Caitlyn has been deceiving me all this time.
Alexi furrowed his brows.
Deceiving? Deceiving about what?
Caitlyn forged photos and videos of Lyra. She deliberately did that to make me hate Lyra and leave her.
Is that all?
Alexi didn't take Caitlyn's actions seriously. Besides, he believed it was better for his son to be with Caitlyn. Lyra had no support left. Her father was gone, and her mother was in a vegetative state. Moreover, the entire Cheister family didn't particularly like Lyra. Alexi couldn't accept Lyra into their family.
What Caitlyn did was because she loves you. Father won't cancel the marriage between you and Caitlyn just because of that.
Father, Caitlyn is terrifying. Moreover, the rumors that are spreading now are true. The Cheister family is ruthless.
Razin, if you don't have a stronger reason, then I won't allow you to cancel the marriage. Remember, you made this choice, so don't embarrass our family.
Alexi said firmly, not willing to entertain any more objections from his son. Razin left his father's office feeling dissatisfied. How could he endure a marriage with a woman who had deceived him for over 2 years? Razin couldn't bear it.
My dear.
Caitlyn's gentle voice sounded in Razin's ears. While in the past, his heart would have felt sweetness upon hearing her voice. Now it turned sour. Behind that soft voice lay a heart full of wickedness. After learning the truth, Razin felt disgusted by Caitlyn. This woman in front of him was truly adept at putting on a facade. Look how she appeared like a goddess now. But in reality, she was a cunning devil who hurt her own cousin for her satisfaction. Razin wasn't sure if Caitlyn slandered Lyra because she loved him. He believed Caitlyn did it to take him away from Lyra. Caitlyn didn't want Lyra to have something better than her.
My dear, why didn't you answer my calls? Did I do something wrong to make you angry and unwilling to answer my calls?
Caitlyn asked softly, her face looking innocent.
Stop your disgusting act in front of me, Caitlyn.
Caitlyn was taken aback. What was wrong with Razin? Why did his attitude change so drastically? Yesterday, he was very gentle with her.
My dear, what's wrong? Your words are so harsh.
Do you enjoy fooling me for all these years, huh?
Caitlyn's face froze, panic flashing in her eyes.
Razin, what are you talking about?
She continued pretending to be clueless.
Caitlyn, I have discovered all your wickedness. Lyra showed me a recording of your conversation. You are truly horrifying. How could you slander your own cousin? You've ruined her reputation, making others think ill of her. Caitlyn, are you even human?
Caitlyn's worst fears came true. She cursed Lyra in her heart. How could that woman dare to tell Razin?
Razin, don't believe Lyra. She deliberately slandered me to separate us. She hates me so much because I took you away from her.
A harsh slap landed on Caitlyn's face.
Until this moment, you dare to continue slandering Lyra. Caitlyn, you are truly despicable. I verified the authenticity of the audio recording and the photos and videos I received. Caitlyn, I will never marry such a terrifying woman like you.
No, Razin, you have to listen to my explanation first. I love you so much. That's why I slandered Lyra. I was blinded by my love for you, so I was willing to do anything. Razin, no one loves you as much as I do. Please forgive me this time, okay?
Caitlyn pleaded, her eyes welling up with tears. She didn't want her marriage to Razin to be canceled. In this city, there were thousands of women who wanted to become Razin's wife. How could she let go of such a potential man?
I don't want your terrifying love. Caitlyn, I will find a way to cancel the wedding with you. I don't want a despicable wife like you.
Razin, you can't do that to me. Razin, don't you love me so much? Forgive me this time, please.
I would be a fool if I still loved a woman who deceived me for years. I no longer love a terrifying woman like you.
Razin then pushed Caitlyn away from him and turned to leave through the main door of his residence.
Razin, you can't leave me.
Caitlyn hugged Razin from behind. Razin coldly released Caitlyn's grip, turned around, and pushed her again until she sat on the floor.
Don't ever touch me with your filthy hands.
Razin warned Caitlyn sternly, then turned again and left completely. Caitlyn remained sitting on the floor. Tears streamed down her face, but in her heart, she cursed Lyra hundreds of times. If she could, she would kill Lyra right now. Lyra had truly dared to ruin her relationship with Razin. No, she couldn't lose Razin. Whatever happened, Razin had to be her husband. Caitlyn got up from her distressed state and quickly returned to her residence to seek help from her mother and grandmother. Once again, Caitlyn's grandmother and mother blamed Lyra. They cursed Lyra to a gruesome death.
Caitlyn, you can pretend to be pregnant, so Razin won't leave you. He'll have to take responsibility for the child you carry.
Mallory found a way out. If Caitlyn didn't marry Razin, there would be no one to help their family's business, and their lives would be utterly ruined. Caitlyn felt relieved after hearing her grandmother's idea. She hadn't thought of this before. It was true. If she pretended to be pregnant, Razin wouldn't be able to leave her.
Grandmother, I truly love you.
Caitlyn hugged Mallory happily.
Where is that rude brat?
Michaela Seymour, the 75-year-old grandmother of Axel, looked lively and beautiful despite her age. She didn't look like a 75-year-old woman, more like someone in her 50s. She was a former world beauty queen, so she always took good care of herself.
Welcome, Grandmadam.
Peter greeted Axelsev's grandmother with hesitation.
No need to welcome me. Tell me where Axelsev is. That ungrateful brat has been in this city for days, but he hasn't come to visit his grandfather and me.
Madam Master is in his room. Allow me to inform him of your arrival.
No need. Just tell me where his room is.
Peter was powerless. He disclosed the location of Axelsev's room. Only after he realized that not only his young master, but also his young mistress were in the room did he regret his actions. Peter chased after Michaela, but it was too late. Michaela had already opened the door to the room. She froze in her place for a moment as she saw a man and a woman passionately kissing on the sofa. Axelsev and Lyra, who noticed someone's presence, immediately stopped their heated kiss.
And,
Axelsev was shocked to see his grandmother.
Oh, carry on. Carry on. I won't disturb. Please continue.
Michaela quickly closed the door again. The old woman had initially wanted to smack her grandson on the head, but seeing him being intimate with a woman, she forgave him. For 27 years of his life, he had never been involved in a romantic relationship with a woman, and frankly, that had worried her. She was afraid that he wasn't interested in the opposite sex at all. She and her family had tried to set Axelsev up on blind dates with many women, But unfortunately, Axel always refused to attend them. And now, seeing her grandson passionately kissing a woman like this, she felt overjoyed. Her grandson turned out to be a normal man. Michaela didn't immediately leave the residence. Instead, she went to the living room and sat there, her heart still pounding with excitement.
Peter, who is the woman with young master.
Madam, I think it's better if young master tells you himself.
Peter didn't want to make a mistake by revealing that Lyra was his master's wife because his master hadn't publicly announced their marriage yet.
For how long has she been with young master in this residence?
Since the residence was purchased, madam. Tell.
Oh, so they met here?
I suppose so, madam.
And them all.
Axel approached Michaela, with Lyra following behind. The woman had changed her thin nightgown into decent attire.
No need to greet me. Just continue,
Michaela exclaimed, making Lyra embarrassed.
Grandma, you're already here. How can we continue?
Axel quickly sat next to his grandmother.
Are you saying that I'm disturbing you?
Oh, yes, that's what I meant.
Axel smiled sweetly.
You impudent brat.
Axel laughed merrily.
Grandma, don't hit me in front of my wife.
Wife?
Michaela was surprised.
Yes, Grandma. Let me introduce you to Lyra. My wife, Lyra. This is my beautiful grandmother.
Hello, Grandma. I'm Lyra.
Lyra introduced herself politely.
Come, sit. Don't stand.
Michaela pulled Lyra to her side. The woman began to ignore Axel
I didn't know that this brat had already married you. If I had known, I would have given you a gift. Ah, right. Just take this.
Michaela took off the bracelet she was wearing. It was her favorite among all her jewelry.
Take it. Take it.
Michaela gave it to Lyra. Lyra worked in the fashion world, but she also knew a lot about jewelry because her friend Estelle was a jewelry designer, and the bracelet Michaela gave her was not something she could possess. Besides being very expensive, there was only one in the world.
Grandma, forgive me. I can't accept such an expensive gift.
Since I gave it to you, it means you deserve it. My wife. Just take it.
Axel knew what the bracelet meant to his grandmother. If she gave it to Lyra, it meant that she really liked her. Lyra hesitated for a moment, but eventually she accepted the gift.
How old are you now, my dear?
22 years old, Grandma.
That's a suitable age to have children. Have you planned on having children? The sooner, the better.
Michaela exclaimed eagerly. She wanted to have great-grandchildren from her eldest grandson.
Grandma, don't scare Lyra like that. We just got married and you're already talking about, children.
Axel tried to rescue Lyra from his grandmother's seemingly hasty talk.
Oh, I didn't mean to scare her. It's just that having children soon after marriage is a good thing.
Lyra smiled softly.
Grandma, I don't mind having children at a young age.
My granddaughter is very sensible, unlike someone next to me.
Michaela reached out to Lyra's hand and caressed it gently. Lyra was surprised by Michaela's affectionate behavior. She thought the woman would inquire about her family, her occupation, and other details. She also didn't expect to be accepted by the old woman so easily. Lyra wasn't one to judge people, but she knew that most families from the upper class would prefer their sons to marry someone from a similar background, especially when it came to Axel Leander, the eldest grandson of the prestigious Leander family.
When do you plan to celebrate your wedding?
Grandma, Lyra and I agreed not to have a celebration anytime soon.
Why?
Oh, it's just not the right time yet.
Axel couldn't tell her that it was Lyra who suggested it. Michaela couldn't insist if her grandson put it that way. It was fine to postpone the celebration. The most important thing was that he now had a wife by his side.
All right, it's getting late. I won't disturb you any longer,
Michaela said. She needed to give the newlyweds more time.
Let me escort you outside, Grandma.
Axel stood up from his seat.
Lyra, Grandma is leaving. If Axel does anything to hurt you, you just tell Grandma, and I'll be the one to smack him on the head.
I will, Grandma.
All right, Then see you later.
Goodbye, Grandma. Take care on your way.
Michaela then walked out of the room with Axel said,
You really are a disrespectful grandson. How could you get married without informing your family first?
Either move fast, Grandma, otherwise someone else might take her away from me.
Axel Sev hugged his grandmother warmly. Besides his mother and sister, his grandmother was the woman he loved the most.
That's right. With your sluggishness in romantic matters, it's a good thing you have a wife now.
Michaela teased her grandson.
Grandma, don't you want to know where Lyra comes from and about her family?
No need. I trust your choice. Besides, as long as you love her, you're free to marry anyone.
Michaela knew her grandson well. Axel Zev wouldn't marry someone who wasn't right for him. Moreover, Lyria's background wasn't too important to her. She didn't prioritize that her grandson's spouse must come from a wealthy family. The Leander family already had everything they needed, so they didn't need another family to support them. As long as her grandson was happy, she would approve of whoever his choice was.
That's why I love you so much, Grandma. You really understand me.
Axel Sev hugged his grandmother.
Don't flatter me. You should explain to your parents and your grandfather about this surprising marriage.
I will do that soon, Grandma. My wife should be introduced to all members of the Leander family, so she will be protected and cherished by many.
You seem to be very fond of your little wife.
Of course, Grandma. I love her very much.
Hearing Axel Sev's confident answer, Michaela felt reassured.
All right. Make sure not to make Lyra sad. If you hurt her, I'll really hit you.
I'll never do that, Grandma. I can guarantee it.
Axel Sev only wanted to love Lyra with all his heart. Hurting his wife was something he would never do in his life. They continued talking and finally arrived at the front yard. The driver was waiting for Michaela in front of the residence.
Take care on your way, Grandma.
Yes, you go inside. It's cold outside.
Okay, Grandma.
Axel Sev watched his grandmother get into the car before it left the residence. He then went back inside and saw his wife still in the living room.
Has Grandma left?
Yes.
Your grandmother is very kind.
It's true. Not only Grandma, but the entire Leander family is very kind. Don't worry about not being accepted into family. Not a single one of them will reject you.
Axel Sev said earnestly. He had parents who had never pressured him since he was a child, and he had twin siblings with good personalities as well. The main Leander family only had one son, Axel Sev's father. Meanwhile, his grandfather's siblings had 3 children. Axel Sev didn't really think about his grandfather's siblings' families. The most important thing to him was that Lyra was accepted into his family. But if his grandfather's siblings' families dared not to accept Lyra, he would remember them well. In the future, don't expect to receive any help from him.
After this, you will probably meet more members of my family. Believe me, Grandma has probably spread the news about our marriage in the family chat group.
Axel Zev knew his grandmother well, and that's what happened. At the moment, in the family chat group, Michaela had informed everyone that Axel Sev had a woman living in his residence, and she was his wife.
I should prepare myself then.
Lyra responded playfully.
Miss Lyra, please come to the Chester family residence tomorrow morning. Mr. Alex's lawyer will read the inheritance letter from Mr. Alex.
Why do I have to be there?
Lyra asked. She thought her grandfather wouldn't leave any inheritance for her, especially since her father wasn't his son.
Because Miss Lyra is one of the beneficiaries of Mr. Alex's assets.
Dustin, the late grandfather's personal assistant, exclaimed. Lyra asked. She thought her grandfather wouldn't leave any inheritance for her, especially since her father wasn't his son.
All right, Uncle, I'll be there.
Since her grandfather left her an inheritance, she had to attend the reading. She wouldn't let her grandmother, aunt, uncle, and cousins take what rightfully belonged to her.
Miss Lyra, there's something else I need to tell you.
Go ahead.
Previously, your father had a 20% stake in the company. However, because he wanted to marry your mother, Mr. Richard gave up his shares to Mrs. Mallory, which are currently owned by Mr. Samuel. Mrs. Mallory made Mr. Richard's shares a condition for him to marry Mrs. Celia.
Lyra was unaware of this before. With her father's kind personality, How could he ever tell her about it? Lyra was utterly disgusted by Mallory. To take her own son's shares, she had to use her father's marriage as a leverage. She couldn't understand why her kind father had to be born to a woman like Mallory. Now that she knew this, Lyra was even more determined to take everything owned by the Chester family. Not only her father's 20% shares, but she would also take over the entire Chester Construction Company. Currently, she wasn't particularly interested in the company as she preferred fashion over construction, but she knew someone who could manage it in her stead. She just needed to ask for Axel Sev's help once again. She was confident that with Axel Sev's power and the current unfavorable situation of Chester Construction, she could take control of the company.
Thank you for telling me, Uncle Dastan.
That's all I wanted to convey, miss. I hope you can make time for it tomorrow.
Yes, Uncle, my husband. Can I ask you for your help again?
Lyra had asked for help for the umpteenth time.
Always.
I want to take over Chester Construction.
In that case, my wife shall have it.
Don't you want to know why I want it?
Oh, whatever my wife wants. It's my duty to obtain it.
Axel Sev spoiled Lyra to this extent.
In that case, I'll just tell you.
I'll listen.
Lyra told him what Dostin had told her earlier in the afternoon. Axel Sev's expression wasn't too good after hearing it. It was understandable that his wife wanted to take over the company. Her father was originally the largest shareholder in the company.
My wife has done the right thing. Anything that should rightfully be yours, you should reclaim it.
Don't you think I'm evil?
No, my wife is the kindest.
Thank you for helping me so much.
Lyra spoke sincerely.
If your words of gratitude are replaced with real actions.
Like what?
You're on top tonight.
That's easy.
My wife is truly wonderful.
Axel Sev praised Lyra once again. This morning, all the members of the Chester family, including Lyra, gathered in the family room with the lawyer and late grandfather Lyra's personal assistant present. The lawyer began reading the will left by Alex for his family members. According to Mallory, the old man didn't need to make a will anymore since they only had one son, Samuel, who would inherit all the assets. However, Mallory was surprised to find out that some of her husband's properties were actually given to Lyra. Not only Mallory, but Samuel, Eugene, and Caitlyn were also taken aback. As a granddaughter, Caitlyn received nothing, and she couldn't understand why Lyra inherited a significant portion of the inheritance, especially the seaside villa that Caitlyn had always loved. It should have been hers, not Lyra's.
This will must have been manipulated. How could my husband give those properties to Lyra?
Mallory was not accepting it.
Mrs. Mallory, you can verify the handwriting to see if it belongs to Mr. Alex or not. Mr. Alex said he gave all those properties to Miss Lyra as compensation for the shares her father, Mr. Richard, gave to Mr. Samuel.
Dostin explained. He knew Mrs. Mallory's personality well, and quite frankly, he didn't like her. Mallory was too greedy and ruthless. She even took Richard's shares, which rightfully belonged to Lyra's biological father. However, as a condition for Richard to marry Celia, Lyra's grandmother demanded all the shares. Only then would she accept Celia as Richard's wife. Richard knew his mother always coveted those shares, but in the end, he let them go in exchange for her blessing. Mallory still couldn't accept it. In her eyes, Lyra didn't deserve to receive any part of the inheritance.
Lyra, what did you say to your grandfather yesterday? You must have influenced his mind.
Mrs. Mallory, this will was made by Mr. Alex 6 months ago.
The lawyer spoke up.
You all must be colluding to get a share of father's wealth.
Eugene accused the lawyer and Lyra's late grandfather's personal assistant.
Mrs. Eugene, I could sue you for defamation. What's written in this will was made by Mr. Alex without manipulation. I also have a recording of the will,
the lawyer said, not tolerating their accusations.
Show me the recording,
Samuel demanded, dissatisfied. The lawyer immediately played the recording on the laptop that Dastin had prepared beforehand. In the recording, Alex, looking healthy, sat facing the camera. The old man began explaining the distribution of his assets, and it matched exactly with what was written in the will.
Lyra, on what basis did you inherit my father's assets?
Lyria glared at her uncle with disgust.
Uncle, now you remember that my grandfather is your father, but where were you when he was sick? Did you even visit him more than 3 times during his treatment?
Lyria was truly fed up with her uncle, who only brought up the father-daughter relationship between them after her grandfather's passing.
Shut your mouth. Give back my inheritance. I'm the only son.
If you mind it, you can discuss it with grandfather. He gave it to me, so I'll accept it.
Lyria was tired of giving in. Now that her grandfather was gone, she didn't need to consider his feelings anymore.
And didn't you also take my share? 20% of my father's shares should have been given to me, but now they belong to you.
My brother willingly gave them to me.
Lyria smiled bitterly.
If Grandma hadn't demanded those shares as a condition for accepting my mother, would my father have given such a significant portion of shares to you?
You can't question what my father gave to your uncle Lyria. It was his own will.
Grandma, aren't you afraid of being haunted by my father because of your biased attitude? He was still your son, even if you didn't want him.
Shut your mouth if you know what's good for you.
Grandma, you used your pregnancy to force Grandpa to marry you. You could have terminated your pregnancy at that time, but you deliberately gained Grandpa's sympathy, so he took responsibility for his brother's actions.
Lyria.
Mallory's voice turned furious. She didn't expect Lyria to know about that.
I've read Mr. Alex's will, and my task is done.
The lawyer didn't want to witness the disgusting family debate anymore. He was only there to read the inheritance letter and then hand over the inheritance to the rightful recipients.
The will is not valid.
Just because the wealth you desire doesn't fall into your hands doesn't mean you can declare the will invalid, Mr. Samuel. Even if you take it to court with Mr. Alex's handwritten document and video, the judge will certainly uphold the validity of the will. Stop causing trouble and accept what you receive.
The lawyer then stood up.
Ms. Lyria, please come to my office later to receive the inheritance from Mr. Alex as well as the other heirs.
The lawyer and Dostin left the scene. Now all eyes were sharply focused on Lyria.
You must give me the inheritance, Lyria.
I won't give away what already belongs to me to someone else again.
Lyria stated firmly. She had been made to give in to so many things, but this time, she wouldn't do it again. There was nothing more to discuss, so Lyria decided to leave. She didn't care about the Shyster family members yelling for her. The entire family was very dissatisfied. They didn't want Lyria to receive a single cent of Alex's inheritance.
That old bastard is still infuriating even after death. He keeps hurting me.
Mom, what should we do now? The one who should have received all those properties is our Caitlyn, not Lyria.
Eugene complained bitterly. The woman was deeply upset by the will that was read earlier.
I won't let those properties fall into Lyria's hands. Those properties are places I often visit when I go on vacation. How could I just let them go?
Mallory exclaimed. Besides being beautiful places, they also have a very high value if sold. Mallory was fuming. She didn't even get 10% of what Lyria received. She knew her husband never loved her, but should he bequeath properties he liked to Lyria? However, what Mallory didn't know was that all the properties given to Lyria were properties Alex bought with his brother when they were still single. Alex gave them to Lyria as compensation for the shares that Richard's wife, Mallory, had taken.
What if we kill Lyria?
Mallory was slightly taken aback by her daughter-in-law's idea.
Do you have contacts who can kill Lyria?
The woman was blinded by anger. She didn't hesitate to eliminate even her own granddaughter for the sake of inheritance.
I know someone who can help us.
Then do it before Lyria gets her share. With her gone, all the inheritance will come back to us.
Mallory just couldn't bear to let Lyria get a share. Even though she knew the properties originally belonged to Lyria's grandfather, she would still take them. Considering it as compensation for what the man did to her, just like when she took Richard's shares inherited from his biological father.
All right, Mother.
Eugene grinned cunningly. He successfully incited his greedy mother-in-law. The woman immediately stood up and made a call. She had an old friend who was a gangster. The man would do anything for money, especially since he loved gambling. So he wouldn't miss this golden opportunity.
Tiger, I have a job for you.
Eugene said shortly after the call was answered.
What is it, and how much will I get?
Let's meet in person.
All right, where and when do you want to meet?
I'll send you the message.
All right.
Eugene hung up and then sent Tiger an address. Eugene knew Tiger well. The man was highly professional. Honestly, this wasn't the first time Eugene had used Tiger's services to kill someone. A few years ago, when she found out her husband had an affair and had a child, she paid Tiger to cleanly kill the two. The police could only conclude that the mother and child's deaths were suicide. 30 minutes later, Eugene met Tiger at a tea house.
So, do you want me to kill your husband?
Not him. My husband is more useful alive.
Then...
It's my niece.
I see. How much can you offer me?
$50,000.
Eugene named a tempting price for Tiger.
I'll take this job.
Tiger didn't bargain anymore. That amount of money could be used for gambling and women.
I want her dead within the next 2 days.
All right.
Here's the information.
Eugene handed a brown envelope to Tiger, which contained not only information about Lyra, but also a sum of money as an advance payment to Tiger. Tiger opened the envelope. He felt a pang of regret that such a beautiful woman had to die. However, business was business. Even if this woman was a goddess, he still had to kill her for the money.
I'll update you within the next 2 days.
Tiger sniffed the scent of money in the envelope. It was truly refreshing. Eugene put his glasses back on and then stood up, leaving the tea house. The woman just had to wait for the update. She was sure that for Tiger, killing someone like Lyra would be a piece of cake. It was already 7 p.m., but Lyra hadn't returned yet. She still had to finish her design. She had lost a lot of time, so she couldn't waste any more of it. Coincidentally, Axel was also out of the country today and would return the day after tomorrow. Lyra might feel lonely if she went back to the large mansion. So it was better for her to spend her time at the company. Lyria's phone rang, and she stopped her activity to check her gadget.
Yes, Axel.
Are you still at the office?
Axel had contacted home earlier to ask if Lyria's dinner was prepared. He just wanted to make sure that his wife was well taken care of during his absence.
I'm still at the office.
It's getting late. Come back soon.